Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap podcast from SNXweave, where we give quick weekly recaps of news and important updates from the previous week from the Spartan Council and core contributors, as well as discuss what the Grants Council and ambassadors are up to. This week, we have some additional special content for you guys. A review of last week's call with the Treasury Council, where we hosted Kane, Carrot Anderson, Cavalier, ML Pseudo, and Spartan Glory to discuss the recent synthetics treasury proposals they've written. So let's get started. As a core system v3 update, several SIPs are in the release process, mostly minor technical SIPs that were previously approved. With the core system feature complete and at parity with v2, any updates this epoch will be driven by the Spartan Council. Noah clarified that as community representatives, the Spartan Council may propose upgrades in reaction to community needs. The CCs are also still working towards the PERPS v3 testnet competition, the details of which should be released in a blog post any day now. Mike already shared that the competition, hosted by the Grants Council, will have a $15,000 prize pool and 15 Spartan NFTs for selected winners. The competition will take place on base Gurley and will help battle test the PERPS v3 mechanism and identify any remaining bugs before it gets deployed to mainnet. And speaking of PERPS v3, the SIP is up on the repository, but changes will still be made leading up to the presentation, with 2 changes specifically being made to make large liquidations more efficient. The preliminary audit report for PERPS v3 came back with minor feedback to address a few things, but nothing major that would affect the testnet competition. The CCs noted, however, that a critical item that needs to happen before the testnet competition is that integrators need to integrate with the ERC 7412 for on-demand off-chain data retrieval. An L1 PERPS market is also in progress. This would mostly serve integrators and very large traders due to the gas requirements. This would be a very bare-bones market compared to L2 perps and is optimized for potential integrators such as stablecoin issuers. Gene voiced concern that this use case may hoard much of the open interest, but Afif explained that perps markets are designed such that any extreme positioning creates arbitrage opportunities that are likely to be capitalized on. He added that a nominal rate on open interest could be considered in the future to make it more attractive for liquidity providers. The Spartan Council also discussed the migration plan for v3, which Adam brought up. In the current plan, v3 will continue to back v2, allowing users to migrate on their own time. While there won't be a strict cutover to v3, rewards will shift over time to hopefully create a natural incentive for users to migrate. Kane also brought up debt migration, which has been deployed for a couple of months now. However, no UI exists for users to make use of these contracts, and the contracts still don't support migration of safes. Noah said everybody should be thinking about where they want liquidity to be in v3 and that this can be reactive to the needs of the community. Next, SIP 338 to deploy the SNX token on Base via Base Bridge was presented last week by Matt. He explained that this is a standard bridge for Base and any custom work would require code changes in v2x. ETH may be used as collateral later, but allowable collateral is outside the scope of this SIP. This proposal is simply the creation of an ERC20 contract on Base and would allow users to bring their SNX to Base. Additionally, the Synthetics Treasury Council's Aerodrome can bolster SNX liquidity on Base at no additional cost to the protocol. Adam brought up the fact that the token should be added to Base with role-based minting, which would allow for other minters in the future if required. Matt agreed to add this language to the SIP, and the Spartan Council signaled support for this proposal. Next up, in exciting news, SNXweave hosted the Treasury Council last week in the Synthetics Discord governance stage to discuss some of their recent Synthetics Treasury proposals with the community. These STPs are a relatively new concept. The guidelines were created in May by Kane, Carrot Anderson, Elliptic Curve, and Spartan Glory. As detailed in these guidelines, an STP is a document that outlines a proposed ongoing management process or one-time use of Synthetics Treasury funds. While a formal proposal template is not required by governance for the Treasury Council, the introduction of STPs aims to provide clarity to the community and facilitate community input. In addition, STPs will serve as documentation for Treasury processes and assist with the transition at the end of each epoch. That being said, the Treasury Council joined us to discuss STPs 2, 3, 4, and 5. all of their most recent ones. So let's talk a little bit about what we discussed with them last week and what each of these STPs entails. STP2 is for a data analytics working group. This STP proposes spending up to $250,000 to fund a data analytics working group. The motivation behind this proposal is the need for a dedicated allocation of resources to ensure accurate and maintained data across synthetics. There hasn't been a set way of managing this in the past, so the task has typically fallen on one or more CCs as a secondary work objective. The goal here is to create a single synthetics data layer that integrators and other front-end builders can point to for all things synthetics data related. Kane pointed out that analytics has always been sort of an afterthought for whoever was doing it, and that there have been attempts to create this function under the CC umbrella in the past, but it eventually falls apart as other more pressing priorities arise. An application process will be defined by the Treasury Council, enabling interested teams and individuals to apply for the working group. The working group will need close access to the CCs and/or come from within the synthetics community to have the required contextual understanding of these challenges and previous attempts at solving them. Gene asked what a dedicated working group would entail, and if the Treasury Council would write deliverables. Kane responded saying it would be a group of people working solely towards this one objective, and that group would not be able to be pulled into any other core protocol functions. There will also be clear KPIs and expectations monitored by the Treasury Council and community, and it will be funded by the Treasury Council. Reflecting on his epic with the Treasury Council, Kane also envisions these working groups helping to provide continuity across epics, as they will have worked with previous councils and would allow new councils to get up to speed faster. Next up was STP3 for a Synthetics Ecosystem Fund. The purpose of this fund will be to make investments on behalf of the protocol to increase the synthetics treasury for the community. The proposal will eventually allocate up to 10% of the SNX treasury towards this objective. A big motivation of this STP is to diversify treasury holdings so SNX doesn't always have to be sold first to meet protocol operating needs. Spartan Glory highlighted that synthetics has been incredibly helpful to many DeFi protocols, but has not really seen commensurate economic benefit. Allocating SNX in exchange for other governance tokens also serves to better align incentives with partner protocols. There are no deals currently on the table, but there was Treasury Council support for proceeding conservatively. Next up was STP4 for a V3 SNX staking pool. This STP proposes allocating funding to create and launch a trial SNX staking pool on Synthetics v3 to introduce users to the new system and identify any potential issues in a controlled manner before the full-scale launch. The motivation behind this proposal is to offer yield on dormant SNX without the market exposure that comes with staking. This STP also proposes a terminology change from SNX staking to SNX liquidity provisioning. Since there will be no market exposure, the yield will be funded by the Treasury Council. The yield will also be considerably less than staking, so it's not expected to reduce the collateral base for other synthetics offerings. This is also a low-risk test of the idea of positioning SNX as a token that captures fees and yield from several sources, rather than just staking. SNX is already its own separate pool in V3, per SIP 324, with its own rewards distributor, which is funded by the Treasury Council. There will be no lockup on this pool. The next presentation was STP5 for a Development and Sales Working Group. This STP proposes establishing a white glove service to onboard high-level traders and funds onto the Synthetics platform, offering incentives, technical support, and ongoing correspondence. A number of large traders and funds have expressed interest in the platform but don't know how to proceed, so the motivation would be to help onboard these big clients. For a 6-month trial period, there would be a $500,000 initial budget that would be distributed in 2 phases, one at the beginning and one after 3 months depending on performance. The budget, hopefully, reflects what is needed to sufficiently motivate a team with experience in this sort of work to do the job effectively. $150,000 to $200,000 will be dedicated to securing a lead for this group. Much of the early stage of this initiative will be interviews with some of these bigger clients to figure out what can be offered at Synthetics to better suit their needs. Bert asked what tools would specifically be offered to these clients, and Rafa explained what they've seen from some of the initial requests is traders being interested in APIs that they might find on centralized exchanges. The CCs are currently creating specs for an SDK for these traders. Similar to the data analytics working group motivation, Kane highlighted that there have never been dedicated resources allocated to this important function, so it has usually fallen on the CCs to bridge the gaps. As the protocol matures, he sees an increased need for specialization, and sees a lot of potential benefit in funding a business development team. Gene questioned whether onboarding traders was a job for synthetics, since it would practically amount to a Quenta and polynomial tutorial. Kane said the counterparty is still the synthetic step pool, and larger traders typically want to speak with someone in synthetics. Millie asked about KPIs, and Spartan Glory said the bottom line is obviously more integrations and more volume, but BD can take time. At 6 months and beyond, the Treasury Council would expect to see some significant conversions and volume as a result of these efforts. Lastly, in Grants Council updates, Sunny is working on sorting out the launch of the NFT website and URL, and a burner wallet has been set up for the OpenSea NFT auctions. For the Watcher page, 3 tasks have shipped, PRs are being merged, and a new dev was added. CT is also working on getting council mandates, while Sunny reviews the Overtime Markets v3 proposal, which he will chat with Cyberduck about. And of course, the Perps v3 trading competition is being funded by the Grants Council and coming soon. And that's it for today's updates. Be sure to check out our weekly recap blog post, share this podcast link, and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear more about from SNXweave. Thanks for listening.